Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me and see me? Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me and see me? You can hear me, but you can't see me. Okay, I'm working on it. All right, I think y'all can see me now. Oh, you got a little technology. Good evening, everyone, wherever you are. My name is Jamila White. I am so excited to be guest hosting tonight for Rakita Lillard Brown, who is your 12 Days of Sweetness curator. So I want to welcome all the new and returning viewers. I want to welcome everyone who's listening live. I want to welcome everyone who's on the replay. And put it in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. I know you can hear me, but put in the chat whether you can see me. Can you see me? All right, I'm putting it in the chat. You said cannot see me. Okay, let's see what's going on. Okay, can you see me? Because if I put vertical, it shows the 12 Days of Sweetness overlay. Let's see if we can get that fixed. Let me see. There we go. I think now everybody should be able to see me, not the vertical people and the horizontal people. Everybody should be able to see me at this point, right? So tell me in the comments if you can see me. Thank you. Rakita says you can see me. Hi, Michelle. How are you? If you're in the chat, drop your name and location so we can shout you out. As I was saying, I am so excited to be guest hosting for Rakita. Today is her day off. We are sending her love. I know she's hovering around just to make sure everything is going smoothly. So my name is Jamila White. I'm an intuitive life coach, psychic medium, Reiki master, author, transformational retreat host, serial entrepreneur for almost 30 years. And so welcome back to day 10 of the 12 Days of Sweetness. We have had a wonderful time over the last 10 days with these luxury curators bringing their wisdom, bringing their expertise, sharing their stories, sharing lessons, micro practices, prompts. So if you're not already in the circle for 12 Days of Sweetness, you can join there on the community. That will get you access to everything, not just these live streams, but the really juicy stuff that's in the community. Each and every one of the luxury curators that's been part of this 12 Days of Sweetness has recorded a video lesson and has given other resources, and all of that is inside the community. So you should see on your screen, you go to bit.ly Days of Sweetness, and that's all lowercase, bit.ly/Days of Sweetness. You should be able to join in, log into the community and get all of these beautiful 12 Days of Sweetness resources, lessons, bonuses, access the full shebang. It's free, but registration is required. So you need to go ahead and get in there. And if you haven't already, if you're watching on YouTube and even if you're on Facebook, head on over to the Hollis Tree YouTube channel. Make sure that you like and subscribe so that you can get all of these goodies. And you can also see the additional live streams over the next 2 days because there's 2 more days in 12 days of sweetness. Okay, I see Michelle is in the DMV. Anybody else here in the DMV? If you haven't already, I want to see you in the comments. Hey, Stacy, let us know where you're connecting from and anything else you want to share with us. So 12 Days of Sweetness is this beautiful wellness and luxury space that's curated by and for Black women by Rakita of Hollis Tree. So make sure you join the circle. The URL is at the bottom of your screen. If you can't see it, it's bit.ly. I'm going to put it in the chat, bit.ly/days of sweetness. And that's all lowercase. So that should be in the chat. All right, shout out to the Facebook crew. Hey, shout out to the YouTube crew. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I share this onto my screen. So I'm going to log into my Facebook real quick so I can go and see and forward this to my own Facebook. So if you're on Facebook or anything else that's shareable, make sure that you can see that you share this video so that others can join in and watch with us. You got some special treats tonight. So not only am I excited to be the guest host, but when I agreed to be the guest host, I did not know who the guest expert was that I would be interviewing. And guess who it is? It's my mom. What? It is my mom. So I have the opportunity to interview my mom. She did the lesson for today. So if you're already in the circle, then you got the email. And it has the instructions on how you can download that. So I'm sharing this to my page right now. Let me do that. If you want to follow me on Facebook, it's at Inspired Jamila, or just type in Jamila White and it should come up. All right, so I have a couple bonuses for you all. Rakita doesn't even know I'm doing this. I did mention I'm a psychic medium. Throughout today, before and after the interview, which will start in the next hour, I'm going to be doing some mini readings, intuitive readings. So if you are live, you have an opportunity to get a little mini intuitive reading from me live on the air if you want one. So today, one of the topics that Ifetayo White talked about in her lesson is she talked about how the importance of hands and generations, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. Let me go ahead and I need to forward this also. Okay, so add to my story. I'm going to put live now. All right. Bear with me, y'all. Trying to do 2 things at once. Okay. So yeah, a little bit about, first we're going to start with a micro practice. We're going to start with a little bit of grounding. Make sure that you share this. Make sure that you share this so that everybody knows that you're in here, and invite your friends. So Stacy is from Canton, Michigan. Hey, Stacy. Hey, Stacy. Welcome, welcome. I am broadcasting from Barbados. I'm live in Barbados, in the Caribbean, in the Southeastern Caribbean. I am originally from the Washington, D.C. area myself. Grew up in and around Prince George's County, Maryland, and D.C. And so now I go back and forth between Barbados and the States. I was in Barbados for 3 years straight, and now I go back and forth between Barbados and South Carolina. St. Helena Island, which is one of the hearts of the Gullah Geechee community. All right, let's get started. So we're going to do a little bit of breath work because I want us to get good and grounded. We talk a lot about curating wellness and luxury, and everything starts with the breath. You are defined as being alive when you take your first breath. you are defined as being gone and deceased when you take your last breath. Your heart can beat, but if you're not breathing, then you're not living. So we're just going to take a moment. If you are not driving or operating heavy machinery, get comfortable. If you are, then you can just do this later because we want you to be safe. So get comfortable in your seat, on the floor, on the chair, on the couch, on the bed. We're going to do a little bit of breathing. So taking a nice, deep, slow breath. Nice and deep and slow on the inhale. And hold. Nice and deep and slow on the exhale. If you like, put your hands on your body. You can put your hands on your heart. You can put your hands on your stomach. You can put your hands anywhere on your body that your body is asking for more love, any part of your body. So we're going to do some more breaths. Take a nice, deep, slow breath in. Hold. And exhale. We're going to do a couple more. And this time when you breathe, I want you to breathe up from your feet, up from the earth into your feet and up through your body. So just imagine that you have a root going down from the soles of your feet down into the center of the earth, or a straw, if that's easier for you to visualize. And just see those roots extending down deep into the very center of the earth. And so when you breathe, yes, we're using our lungs, but we're actually breathing up from our feet and drawing this love and nourishment from the earth. So breathe up from the earth, all the way up through your feet. And as you do, just feel your feet and your ankles and your toes softening and expanding. And exhale. Once again, breathe up from your feet, from the earth, drawing that breath up. And as you breathe in up through your feet, feel your shins, your calves, your knees soften and expand. Your hips, your bottom, and exhale. Excellent. Breathe up from the earth, up through your feet, up through your legs. Breathe into your root chakra. Root chakra is your genitals, your anus, the tailbone. Breathe into that space and feel that space soften and expand. Feel your base expand. You want your base to be energetically bigger and wider than the rest of you. Think pyramid shape or like a mountain, a wider base. And exhale, breathing up from the earth, up through your feet, up through your body, and then up your spine from the root chakra to your sacral chakra. That's your womb space, your lower intestines, your lower back as well. And as you breathe into that space, feel your womb space and all your lower innards softening and expanding with that breath that you drew up from the earth. And exhale. Once again, breathe up from the earth, up through your feet, up through your spine. Breathe into your stomach. That's this third chakra, solar plexus, and your lower back. This is our will. So our root chakra is our sense of safety. Our second chakra, sacral chakra, is our sense of being entitled to the good life. That is our sense of self-worth. That is our sense of joy, pleasure, and creativity. And we're breathing up to our stomach. This is where our boundaries are, our will. This is the I am, and our identity is here. So we breathing into this area, stomach, we are softening and expanding with the breath. So draw the breath up from the earth, up through your feet, up through your legs, up through your spine, and feel your stomach area, stomach, kidney, spleen, all that good stuff in your mid lower back, softening and expanding with each breath. And exhale. If you're just joining us, drop in the chat where you're connecting from. We are breathing up from the earth, up through the soles of your feet, all the way up through your spine, and into your heart space. And as you breathe, your heart, your lungs, the center of your upper back, feel all of that softening and expanding. Feel your heart actually, the borders of your heart, the walls and the bricks that we've built around our hearts. Feel it softening and expanding. As you breathe in, hold, and expand. Excellent. And exhale. Breathing up from the earth, up through your feet, up through the spine. We're going to go out to the shoulders. And as we do, any tension, any tightness, any heaviness that's in the shoulders, we're going to just allow that to just melt away. All of the tension. And as you breathe down through your arms, elbows, into your hands and fingers. Feel all of that soften and expand as you direct the breath. And exhale. Breathing up from the earth, up through your feet, all the way up your spine, and breathe up your spine and into your throat. This is your throat chakra. This is your expression. This is where your truth lives and comes out. This is your creative expression. This is your voice. So I want you to breathe into your throat. Feel the breath. Feel your throat soften and expand. This is also your jawline and your mouth, so allow your jawline to relax. Unclench those teeth. Unclench. Excellent. And exhale with a sigh. Once again, breathing up from the earth, up through your feet, all the way up through your legs and up your spine. Now we're breathing into our third eye chakra. This is your sense of connectedness and knowing. Connectedness and knowing. Connected to all things. We connect through our hearts, but we also connect to multiple dimensions, multiple time zones, multiple timelines through our intuition. So breathe into the center of your forehead and the back of your head. This also includes your eyes, ears, nose, and sinuses. Take a nice deep slow breath in and up from the earth, up through the soles of your feet, up your body, up your spine. And breathe into your third eye. And also notice if your eyebrows or brow, your forehead, is furrowed, tight, or tense, and just allow it to release. If you need to touch, that's fine too. Allow your hands to go wherever they feel directed. Direct them wherever they feel like they need to go. And touch with love and intention. And exhale. Once again, breathing up from the earth, up through our feet, through our legs, all the way up our spines, through the third eye chakra. And now we're going to the crown chakra, which is the top of the head. This is our sense of connectedness to something greater than ourselves. This is the God energy and the halo above our crown chakra. So breathe up and into that space. Allow it to soften and expand and open. And exhale deeply and slowly. And on this next breath, we're going to breathe up once again through our feet. But when we do, we're going to go up through our legs, up our spine as before. But we're going to see the breath go right up through our spine and out through the top of our skull, like a beautiful white light, almost like a whale pushing air through its spout. Right? So we're going to breathe up from the earth, up through our feet, up through our legs, all the way up our spines, right out through the top of our skull, and imagine it as a beautiful, brilliant white light coming up and out, and then cascading down and around as we hold the breath. And there's this beautiful white light surrounding you, beautiful white light and mist. And within that light, you know that you are safe, you are loved, you are protected. And exhale. We're going to do that one more time, breathing up from the earth, from the center of the earth, all the way up through the roots, through the soles of our feet, up through our legs, up our spine, all the way up, and push that air up and out and down. And as we do it, just in touch with our bodies, and notice anywhere in the body, whether it was during the breath work or right now, that feels tight or tense or heavy, and just breathe into those spaces, allowing them to soften, relax, and expand. All right, thank you for breathing with me. If you have just joined us, welcome to day 10 of 12 Days of Sweetness. I'm Jamila White, guest hosting for Rakita Lillard Brown. Today is day 10. I'm so excited about our guest that's going to be coming at the top of the next hour. It is my own mother, Ifetayo White. When I first signed on, I didn't know that she was going to be the guest expert for the day. But I am so delighted and excited that I get to do this. So is anybody that was in the chat, was anybody here yesterday for day 9 for the sweet lesson with Goddess Z, where she did the ancestral meditation? It was, her lesson was She Who Remembers, an ancestral meditation for Black women, where you got to journey into the soul's memory through a guided ancestral meditation. And during that lesson, Goddess Z led led us into a space of ancestral wisdom, divine feminine presence, identity reclamation, spiritual grounding, lineage healing. And if you didn't get that lesson, then you definitely need to join in the circle. It's within the platform. Excuse me. And it's under day 9. It's under day 9. So I invite you to log into the 12 Days of Sweetness practice, but that's where all of the meditations are, all of the video lessons, all of the resources. Michelle said, yes, she did. What were some of your takeaways from that, Michelle, if you don't mind sharing? It's Michelle from the DMV, logging in through YouTube. What were some of your takeaways from that ancestral connection? As we recap from yesterday. And after we talk about this recap, I'm excited because we're going to do a couple of intuitive readings. Couple of intuitive readings. So if you're live in the chat, go on ahead and let me know if you want a mini reading as well. So Michelle said in the chat, she said, it was a great guide to connect with the ancestors. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Really beautiful. I'm going to go back. I wasn't able to hear the entire thing, but I'm going to go back and listen to Rakita's interview with Goddess Z and get that micro lesson, that mini lesson as well. So shout out to Goddess Z. All right. So if you're online and if you're on this live call, on this live stream, this is the time. Drop your question and let me know if you want a reading, and drop your question in the chat. So Stacy said from yesterday, her takeaway was that I plan on creating an altar for my ancestors. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's going to be such a beautiful connecting practice. And I know that will be wonderful for you. And I know your ancestors will also appreciate having that deeper connection and through the altar. And sometimes we got to just remember the altar is, of course, magical and sacred and all of that. But it's also to remind us to hold the energy of the connection. The items on the altar and the altar itself are to remind you to hold the energy, because you are the altar. Everything else is the representation of energy. You are the altar, and your relationship with the ancestors is the most sacred part. Everything else is the representation. But that representation and having that physical space or mini space allows you to remember who you are and whose you are, and to stay in the energy of the connection. So the altar is great, but the magic is you. But it's so beautiful that you were able um, to create that. So Stacy says she wants a reading, and then Michelle says she wants a reading, and we're going to get to both of those. So Stacy, you're up first, since I saw your message first. Is there any particular question or topic, general topic, health, love, relationships, career, finances, other, that you want to talk about, or do you want a more general reading? So drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. So Stacy is entering her question. And so I am a psychic medium, and I am clairvoyant, which means intuitive vision, clairaudient, which means intuitive hearing, and clairsentient. I can feel all the things. Sometimes I feel them in my body, and also claircognizant. Claircognizant means clear knowing. I'm not going to get too deep into that, because you can check the 12 Days of Sweetness from Sunday, because that was my interview and lesson with Rakita. We talked about trusting yourself and trusting your intuition. So Stacy says she desires to relocate. So let's see what's going on with that. So Stacy, just take a deep, slow breath. That helps me to connect with your energy. Let's see what is coming. Just tuning in. So Stacey said the desire to relocate and anything else that comes. So, okay, there's pieces that's coming up. And the first thing is there is a change coming, a change around your environment. There's a change around your space, but I don't know that it's the big relocation that you're initially thinking of. I feel like there's a two-step process. One, there's a change of environment, but I don't know if that's the big relocation, right? There's something changing, whether you physically change your space or a person comes into your space or a person exits your space. There's a change around your environment. There is relocation coming, but I don't feel like it's like right now. It's a little bit down the line. It feels like there's one thing that happens and then the relocation. You're in the middle of almost feels like an energy reset or do-over around your identity and how you see yourself. Also, there's something from the past that's coming full circle. Having in this change, this identity shift of how you see yourself, and also the relocation part, are all connected to something coming full circle from your past. I want to dig a little bit deeper into this, because I'm not clear yet if we mean like past, like 3 years ago, or past, like past life, Akashic records. Stacey, also type in the chat, when is your birthday? Just the month and the day. When is your birthday? Because they're talking about something with the timing too, coincides with or overlaps with your birthday season. There's news or development that's near or around your birthday. One of the things, so I mentioned, okay, so you said 11/23. You just had a birthday. Happy birthday. So this will be the birthday next year or the following year. So this will be 2026, 2027. There's a significant development around this and around relocation, the big relocation, because again, they're saying there's a change of environment and then there's a big relocation. There's something having to do with the timing of your birthday that either creates or bumps up against the timing of these changes in this relocation piece. One of the changes around identity that they are talking about, when I say they, I mean angels, ancestors, guides, both yours and mine. They just be ganging up on me and be like, talking, talk. They show me pictures, they tell me words in my ears, they give me feelings in my body. That's kind of how I pick up on different energies. But Stacey, one of the things that they're talking about with this identity shift, it's not so much of, I was Susie and now I'm Becky, right? Or Bequisha or whatever. It's more about what you see as possible for yourself and like big picture. Okay. So it's some limiting beliefs, which right now you may not even recognize as a limitation of how far you can see yourself going, how big you can see yourself being. And I mean big more as less about size and broadcasting and more about more true to your truest self. So, but there's some old energy around not seeing your full self or not allowing yourself to play full out, and that's affecting how you see yourself. And this is some old stories that are in your head that are replaying, but they didn't come from you and they didn't come from God. These came from people who are either wanting to control or people who just meant well for you, but they couldn't see beyond their own limitations and they transferred their limitations to you. So often under the guise of being realistic or being or for your stability and safety. Like if you do it this way, you're more stable or whatever. And it has limited how you're thinking. And that's still playing a part like now. And that's part of what's shifting over this next year for you is this really deep sense of seeing yourself differently. And it's not even so much like I'm a different person, but you've never really fully been able to see your full self because it hasn't always been safe to do so. There's also some change around relationship status. Um, and you're going to be at a crossroads about a new or existing relationship. So there's like a crossroads coming where you have to make a big decision of, am I in or am I out? But there will be a conversation about that. But back to this relocation. All right. Yes, relocation is coming. And I feel like it's not a down the street, next city over relocation. This is far relocation, like other part of the country or even international, because they're saying that you're going to go to a very far distance. So if you continue to do the work of, it's not even so much about what you have to learn and become, it's really about unlearning the limitations and unlearning the conditions for your success. It's almost like I have to have A, B, C, and D in place before I deserve to have this life that I want to have and the location that will hold the life, right? So there's a little bit of that going on. And as you shift this sense of self, that begins to open up more and more and more. But absolutely, you're going to be traveling far or relocating far. Um, and this is going to be like the beginning of a new era for you. There's chapters and then there's whole books, and it's like the Stacy living in this other place book. I also am getting this thing about this. There's a strong woman, a strong feminine energy around you that's an ancestor. This will be mother, grandmother, great grandmother. Very, she's coming in very strong, and she's taking credit for the message that I am delivering to you today. She says there's good news coming. There'll be a toast of good news soon, like between now and March, like there's some kind of big development. The second thing she's saying is she's literally giving me the word pregnant with possibility. And I don't know if that's a physical pregnancy or some other creative birth, the birth of a creative project, of an entity, of a business, of an idea, of some other project. But there's something that is of your creation and of your doing that she's talking about is coming. Okay. So yeah, I'm really excited for this next year that's coming for you, especially the second half. And the more you do the unlearning of these limitations and the more like you peel off these layers and get down to your truest self, that self is the one who wants to like really expand without the limitation. So it's coming for you. Yes, there'll be a relocation. It's not right away. There will be a change of environment in the short to medium term, which can be everything from change around your residence, somebody coming in and out, redecorating, moving locally, or even change around the environment of your everyday work. But the big relocation is coming, and I feel like that's 1 year or so out. But you can also speed things up. So some of this isn't just about chronological time, but it's more about the order of things. Like thing one, thing two, thing three has to happen, and then the move can happen. And the less resistance you have, the more quickly you can move through those stages. And it's not a race, so there's no pressure like I got to do all of this. But just know that the more resistance you have, the more that slows down your time frame. The least resistance you have, the more flow you have, the more momentum you have. And it can happen as soon as 8 to 9 months, but it can also take as long as 2 years. So again, that has to do with your energy and how much you're peeling back the layers of what is not truly Stacy, but the other stuff that was put upon you, the conditions, the limitations, the beliefs, the ways that you doubt yourself or play small. That's the part that the more you peel that away, the less resistance there is, and the more you can move forward smoothly. So just keep calling on those ancestors because they're here to help you. And that woman that was there feels very maternal, mother, grandmother, great grandmother. She's in there. Okay, so thank you so much, Stacy. So Lavonda has joined the chat. Hey, Lavonda. If you have just joined the chat, I'm Jamila White. I'm guest hosting for my girl, Rakita, for the 12 Days of Sweetness for Hollistree. Today is day 10. We are having a lovely chat. I'm doing some mini readings in the chat. If you want a reading before we get to the top of the next hour, which is 7 o'clock Eastern Time, where I will be interviewing our very special guest, also known as my mom, Ifetayo White. I'm so excited about that. So if you just joined in, drop in the chat where you're connecting from, because I'd love to see who is up in here. Also, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, hit that share button. Let people know that this is a live chat that they're not going to want to miss, because baby, when we get to the top of the next hour with that interview, I'm telling you, my mom is going to be up in here dropping gems. Also, baby, y'all getting these free readings up in here until we get to the top of the hour with the interview. So we probably got another 15 minutes or so where we are going to be, chitting and chatting. So I see Lavonda's in here. Healing Griot Simmons has joined. Hey, girl. Hi. And Moon Soul Frequencies is here in DMV. So DMV is representing heart. Lavonda is in Jonesboro, Georgia. So far we have Georgia, DMV represented. Where was Michelle was in the DMV. I think Stacy was in Michigan, in Canton, Michigan, right? So we're all over. I want to know who else is up in here. Let me put these on the chat. So yeah, we got Lavonda in Jonesboro, Moon Soul Frequencies in DMV. Healing Griot, where are you located? What part of the country? What part of the world? Where are you? Where in the world are you? Put it in the chat. Stacy's in Canton, Michigan. Michelle is in the DMV. And I know Rakita is somewhere on the East Coast at the moment, based in Brooklyn, but also from the DMV. So DMV is going to be represented hard. Dr. Leisha, hey, lady. Good to see you in here. She is in North Carolina, representing for the North Cackalack. Who else is in the Carolinas? So when my mom joins, she's going to be joining from St. Helena Island, South Carolina. And that's also where I am when I'm not here in Barbados. I'm going back and forth. So Dr. Leisha is in North Carolina. Thank you. And she's on Facebook, connecting from Facebook. So welcome again, day 10 of 12 Days of Sweetness. I'm Jamila White, guest hosting for Rakita Lillard. She has entrusted me with her baby, and I promise I'm going to do my best to honor that. All right, back to these readings. So Michelle said that she wanted a reading. So Michelle, drop in the chat if you would like, if there's something specific that you want to talk about, or you want a more general reading. So drop in the chat. Lavonna says she heard my interview the other day. Hey girl, I'm glad you heard it. Okay, so Michelle says, let me put this on the screen. Am I on the right spiritual path? Who is my spirit guide and what should I focus on? Okay. So Let me tune in. Michelle, take a deep, slow breath because that helps me get connected to your energy. And welcome to the chat. If you're just joining us for 12 Days of Sweetness, while I'm tuning into Michelle's energy, drop in the chat where you're connecting from, but also if you aren't already signed up for the free 12 Days of Sweetness program, I mean, there's the 12 days of live streaming, but that's just a little fraction of what's going on. You got to go to the URL at the bottom of the screen. It's bit.ly/days of sweetness, all lowercase, all one word, right? You can log in there and get into Rakita's Holistry platform for 12 Days of Sweetness. That's where you get not just the replays from all of these live streams, but you get individual lessons from each one of the 12 presenters. We're on day 10 of the 12 days. So there are already 10 lessons in there, video lessons. There are resources to download. There are practices and prompts and journaling things that's in there. But you can't get that part if you're not in the 12 Days of Sweetness community on the Circle platform. It's free, but you got to sign up, right? Got to sign up. So let's see. Oh, Carmen is in Mexico. Hey, Carmen. Now, let's get back to Michelle because we're doing some free readings up in here until the top of the hour where we're going to bring on our special guest, Miss Ifetayo White, Mama Ifetayo. All right. So Michelle wants to know if she's on the right spiritual path. So, first, before we even get to the answer of the question, I want to poke a little bit around the question itself. Am I on the right path? Which implies that there's a wrong path. There is no such thing as really being on the wrong path as far as your life path, because your life is your life, right? Now, there's on the way to things that you want to see happen. There's on the ways to goals and intentions and manifesting. And there's no right and wrong path, but there's a slow and a fast path. So when we think that we're wondering if we're on the right path, there's an inherent judgment in there that doesn't belong in there. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, even if you're uncomfortable right now. Even if you're in an in-between stage, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So therefore, you're on the right path. Now, you can take the slow route or the fast route, right? And if you want a smoother, faster, more easy route, I'm assuming that's really what the underlying question is. And you have more than one spirit guide. You have a whole crew of angels and ancestors and guides and sometimes deities and all of that. So let me tune in, Michelle, and see what's coming up around questions about your path, questions about spirit guides, and questions about what to focus on. Also, we'll go back to this other question about the should. What should I focus on? You know, Michelle, you're judging yourself a lot. This is what I'm picking up from you, not just from your language, but from your energy. And you have a lot of criticism running around in your head about whether you're doing things right. And also there's a lot of pressure on yourself to get things right or to, I don't want to say be perfect, but there's so much pressure that you're putting on yourself to not make any mistake. And that pressure is coming, it's right now internalized, but that didn't start with you. That started from outside of you. So Michelle's in the chat saying, yes, yes. So this is resonating with you. So you have this, you're putting this pressure, and just know that that's not you. That's not true you, like true Michelle. And that's not God. That's coming from other people. And some of these people aren't even around you anymore, but it was some early programming earlier in your life from childhood and other adult experiences that made you feel like I don't have any room to make a mistake. And that's so common among Black women because, you know, our whole a part of us generationally that survived slavery in the aftermath, there was so much pressure to produce, and our lives depended on our ability to produce, and there wasn't a lot of room for error because you could be killed, you could be raped, you could be tortured, your children could be sent away from you, sold away from you, your life could be made very miserable. And even today, we hear so often, you have to be twice as good, da, 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 da. You know, we hear all that. And there's more of that conversation in my interview from Sunday that Rakita interviewed me on, when we were talking about that. But you, Michelle, you've got some of this energy going on, and that's not true, Michelle. That's Michelle in survival mode. And even you can look like you're thriving as you're surviving. If you look at all of the trappings of what we consider to be success, and on paper, you might be considered successful, but you may not feel good on the inside. And like you said in this chat, I'm putting this on the screen, Comparing yourselves to others, comparing yourself to others, and feeling like you're not enough. You know, these were outside influences that have been internalized. So even in the way that you're asking the question, it's like, I got to get the question right. And what should I focus on? Focus on what feels good. Focus on what you enjoy. And that's going to feel a little airy fairy to you because you're looking for, I want a specific formula to feeling better and to feeling more accepting of myself. But that's just it. The accepting of the self and this newer, deeper level of self love and feeling worthy as is giving your attention to what feels good in that moment. And that's probably against everything that you've ever been taught and every advice that you've ever been given, because it feels irresponsible or unrealistic or lazy or selfish. But you are not any of those things energetically, Michelle. I can feel that you're not. You're very earnest and sincere, right? Like, and there's a sincerity even in trying to do the right thing because you want to be a good person and you want to also contribute to community and to family and to friends. And those things initially come from a good place. But then when we add that internalized voice of the not enoughness, it starts creeping into other stuff. It starts creeping into performing and people pleasing and proving my worth and proving my worth. And am I good enough? And I got to prove that I'm good enough. I have to demonstrate that I'm good enough. Instead of just taking the focus off of that, because that's really focusing on other people and what they think, and focusing on what feels good to think about right now and to focus on right now, even if it's not like this is the path of 3 steps to success, but allow yourself to go down a rabbit hole, which is again against everything that we've ever been taught about being productive, right? We need to move out of that productivity and into the joy and ease space. Joy begets more joy. Work begets more work. So what feels good, or let me rephrase that, not just what feels good in this moment to give your attention to, but what are you curious about? What are you curious about? A lot of times our intuition works through our curiosity, but because it doesn't sound important, we don't give it any attention. And where the attention goes, the energy flows. And if you want to get into this place of feeling better, and feeling like I'm on the right path, but feeling aligned. Alignment and flow has an energy to it. We can feel when we're not in alignment and flow. We can feel out of sync. We can feel off kilter, or we can feel like on paper everything looks fine, but I'm like going through the motions, right? So let me know if this is resonating with you in the chat. So this part about being on the right path, which was your original question, and what you should focus on, and put this back up on the screen. Your original question has to do with, are you allowing yourself to be pleased by what actually pleases you? Are you allowing yourself to enjoy what you actually enjoy, even if it hasn't been approved on the list of the 12 things that Michelle is respectably allowed to enjoy? What is your guilty pleasure? Like, do you feel comfortable dropping it in the chat? What is your guilty pleasure? What is it that, if nobody would ever judge me, and fear was never an issue, and money is not an issue, and most importantly, having the approval of others or pleasing others or not displeasing others was not an issue, how would you spend your Saturday this Saturday? Like, forget that it's holiday season or whatever, but how would you spend a Saturday if there was no judgment by other people or by yourself? Like, what would you do all day? This is how you get back into alignment. So Lavana said, ooh, I get that, the not being enough. Yep. Okay, so Michelle said what she would do, books and coloring. Okay, so as that came up for you, did any judgment come up around it? Any other judgment come up with it? Like, it's frivolous, it's lazy, it's silly, it's childish, it's not serious, it's not productive. Did any other judgment come up with that? Because here's the thing, you might have like big career questions or big life questions, and you're like racking your brain trying to figure those out. But the answer might be in the books and the coloring. It might literally be in the books and the coloring, but also when you give yourself over to that activity and are fully present with it without the baggage of guilt, but just allowing yourself to be fully present for however many hours. Again, we're going back to the if you could just spend all day Saturday um, doing that. And, you know, your loved ones, anybody you have to take care of, they're good, but you have a whole day to yourself, like staycation. What are you doing? And for you, it's books and coloring, allowing yourself to be fully present with it. That process, that creative process, brings a different energy into your body and into your aura and into your energy system. And that is a creativity that also then can solve problems and come up with new solutions. So you spend an hour or two indulging in your creativity, again, with no objective, like when we were kids, we created without an agenda and an objective and a time frame. But as adults, everything has to be justified. Like, is it within the budget? Who else is going to be there? And la 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 la. And it's no longer fun, or it's a little bit fun, but there's so many rules and parameters, right? So if you give yourself over to this, Michelle, it changes your brain so that when you go back to the rest of your life, you can see old problems and old situations with a new, fresh eye. And then you start solving these other problems, or you start seeing what is the next step on this path, this life path that you're so worried about whether you're on the right path or not. The path is your joy. The path is your peace. The path is your curiosity. Again, I don't even want to talk about intuition because that makes people think that they have to do all this efforting. And a lot of times intuition starts off as curiosity. I just keep thinking about this. So okay, Lavana said, okay, Dr. White, I'm gonna need you in my life. Girl, just go onto my website and go to my Facebook page. Go to Jamila White, JamilaWhite.com. And and so that you can see when I live stream and when I do readings, or you can book a one-on-one session, or you can join my group coaching for women who want to start trusting themselves and living in that space. So Michelle says, it feels good. I just feel like I'm not as good or doing things that others are accomplishing. Yeah, the quickest way to feeling bad about yourself is comparing yourself to other people. And so resist that temptation. Resist that. You are here to march to the beat of your own drummer in your own time and at a pace that feels right for you. And by watching them in a way that isn't just I'm being inspired by watching people who are doing their thing, but feeling like I'm not doing mine, or I'm not doing mine enough, or I'm not doing mine fast enough or good enough. It's a practice to unlearn that thinking. Just allow the people around you who are doing their thing. And again, not just accomplishing on paper, but are they joyful? Because sometimes we start being envious of people and what we think they have. It's not even really what they have. Right. Alicia said, I spun the block in love, and I'm wondering if it's going to stick to set. Okay, that's a reading question. We'll come back to that in a moment. And, in a few minutes, we're going to bring on Ifetayo White onto the stage, onto the screen. But going back to Michelle, you got this, but just give yourself more slack. Give yourself a break. Give yourself some grace, because that judgment is it's lowering your vibe, and it makes it even harder to experience what is joyful for you. But I'm telling you, Michelle, let me see. I'm actually going to do a little less coaching, a little more reading with you for a second. All right, let's see. There's some career change stuff coming, especially if you give yourself over to this creative stuff and this playful stuff. I see this happening around mid-year next year as the weather is warming up. So that's like June, July, August timeframe, maybe even as early as May. Right, but more play for you. What feels like frivolous is actually unlocking the brilliance in your brain, and you're going to have these new ideas and fresh approaches, even to old problems, old solutions, especially around the work that you do and your livelihood. And I see some recognition coming from that of, Michelle is doing things differently and attracting attention, which leads to some more success. Okay, so thank you so much for your question, Michelle. And please carve out some time for coloring and books, even if it's not like a whole day, but you can do it for 20 minutes. You can do it for an hour, but put yourself at the top of your to-do list, or better yet, put yourself at the top of your to-be list. Because doing coloring, being versus being a person who colors and enjoys crafts and art, that's two different things. One is a task, and one is a lifestyle. So bring more of that into your life. And thank you so much for your question. And real quick, before we bring on Ifetayo White to the stage, I'm going to hit up that question for Dr. Leisha real quick. I spun the block in love, and I'm wondering if it's going to stick this time. Well, it depends. You spun the block on the person, meaning that this is someone you dealt with in the past and they're back on the scene and you're wondering if it's going to stick. The only thing that you need to be wondering if it's going to stick is the love affair you're having with yourself. Okay, by the way, Michelle just sent all the hug emojis. Thank you, Michelle. So Dr. Alicia, the love affair, the biggest love affair you may be having, and I know it's very cliche, but what I'm getting is decenter this other person and focus on you, even as you are engaging with them and interacting with them. Focus on you. Right now, you're very focused energetically. It's like, if I could just give you the visual, energy, like here's your body, right? This is your body. This is your energy body. You know, our general aura energy body is a couple of inches outside of our body, right? That's our personal energy space. When you typed the question energetically, your energy was way over there to where this other person is. First of all, call all your energy back into your body, like now, because you're extending out from your body because you're so focused on this person and centering this person. And when you're centering this person on that level, there's an energy imbalance with you. I want you to focus all of this love and care and whatever back on yourself, right? Focus it back on you. And it's not going to scare the right person away. Because if you're wondering, oh, that's going to make me feel selfish and not pouring into this person, what I'm getting for you is you have a tendency to overgive. And so it's actually bringing you right back into harmony and balance with the giving and receiving, because right now you're an overgiver energetically is what I'm picking up. So you pulling your energy back feels like you're swinging all the way into the far end of being like the selfish narcissist, but you're not. You're actually just bringing yourself back into center. So decenter this person and allow them to court you proper. Now, is it going to stick this time? That's a loaded question. There's something there. There's something there, but I don't know that this is the person. There can be something there. This can be a good experience if you center yourself and let them join the party of celebrating Leisha, right? But what I'm getting is there's something there, and it can be a good experience. I don't think this is your person like forever and ever and ever, but this can be a good experience as long as you don't center them. Again, it's going to feel uncomfortable for you at first to not overgive, but to give in balance with receiving. So focus on you and what you like to do. I feel like somebody asked you what you want to do for the weekend on a date or what you're into, and you start naming things that you think they like that you also like, instead of really just naming what you really want to do and what you're really into, because you're feeling like, oh, I want them to have a good time too. This person actually, not just this person, the person that's a good match for you derives their joy from your happiness. So you centering them actually is going to repel them. You're going to repel the person who's actually the right match for you by being too focused on their needs instead of focusing on you and letting them also cater to you. Like, this isn't necessary for every person that I'm talking to. This is your reading. But I'm feeling like bringing that in, and it's going to be an adjustment for you to not, I'm not saying don't be present with them, but I'm saying center yourself in this. Be self-centered. Self-centered and selfish, they overlap, but they're not the same thing. And when you're a chronic overgiver in recovery, moving it back into focusing more on you feels uncomfortable, but that's actually bringing more things into balance and will attract the right person. Because if you're overgiving, you have a tendency to attract overtakers, people who take too much, right? So then there's that. All right. Thank you so much for the time doing the readings. Leisha says, got it, and that makes sense. And we are about to bring up a very special guest. I'm so excited to bring up this special guest. I'm going to read a little something to introduce you to this person. Ifetayo White is an 80-year-old born to be mother and most often called Mama Ifetayo. She is the birth mother of two 50-something-year-old daughters, many adopted community daughters, and she is grandmother to two grandchildren. Originally from Washington, D.C., Ifetayo now lives on St. Helena Island, South Carolina. She founded the Low Country School of Reiki, Choices Birthing and Wellness Support, from which she teaches, mentors, and supports healing practitioners. Additionally, Ifetayo enjoys offering in-person and virtual rest and womb space trauma healing retreats, which are the culmination of all of her life and professional experiences. And that I'm talking about was over 6 decades of professional experience. As always, Ifetayo continues to nurture her communities as well as herself. She is also the author of the brand new book, just came out last month, Reiki, Heart, and Soul, Many Stories, One Bright Light, which is available wherever books are sold and can be special ordered if you can't find it. If you're in the Washington, D.C. area, December 29th, she's doing a book launch and book signing at Busboys and Poets in Hyattsville, Maryland. Would you please help me welcome to the stage? Oh, let me figure out how I can put her on here. My mama, Ifetayo White. All right, let's see if I got her up here properly. Okay, do I see two people? Yes. Hey, mom.
Hey, Jamila.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Yay, I'm
How
so
are you?
excited.
How you doing? I
I'm
haven't seen
good.
you in a
Oh,
while.
hey, Nicole. Nicole is in Texas, just joined in the chat. So earlier today, you gave a lesson that's inside the community, and the lesson was called "With These Hands." For those who had signed up and registered for the 12 Days of Sweetness, they got your lesson called "With These Hands."
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, what made you choose that topic?
Oh my goodness. It has such a relevance for me for many, many reasons. The first thing that comes to my mind is the book, The Conjuring of America, because I've got
Mhm,
to give a shout out to that book. And that book has put in context for me so much of who I am and how I got here to be who I am. And the my oneness with serving through my hands is major in my life. Um,
mhm,
as you all know, I am a Reiki master teacher and practitioner for over 30 years. So that means every day I have given myself Reiki, at least for that long, and have shared Reiki through my hands with others. I also, with these hands, with what I shared earlier today, I wanted to put in perspective that I do practice Reiki, and I also experience Reiki in a bigger context, and that context is of ancestral healing energy
mhm,
that many of us, who particularly those who are drawn to serve through our hands, and other ways, actually I want to speak a little bit more about that early later, but yes, so I my sharing of Reiki and the way and teaching of Reiki and talking about Reiki um, is really through my consciousness of an ancestral healing, natural a natural ancestral healing practice that we all have memory of.
mhm,
Also, as a doula, there's a lot of touching that is a part of the work of a birth doula and postpartum doula. So, in a nutshell, that's why I what came through me to share on this platform was that was those words and sentiment.
With these hands, yes. So, as you know, we're in our 12 Days of Sweetness program for Hollis Tree, and I'm guest hosting for Rakita. And this is day 10. And now that you are 80, about to be 81 in the spring in March, I can't believe it's going to be 3 months, Mine. You'll be
I
81.
know.
What is your definition of a sweet life now at 80? What is the definition of a sweet life for you?
I believe it's the one that I'm living,
Okay.
um, and consciously and intentionally created. Um, a sweet life, number one. Well, one of the main components to me is to live in a place that nurtures your spirit.
Mhm.
That
You mean
for
geographically?
geographically is what I mean, and I was not. I was able to move here to St. Helena Island 25 years ago, and that was why I moved here without family and with my best friend Arian King Coma introducing me to this place. To me, that's paramount because every day you want to be nurtured, you want to be supported um, and feel loved by your
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
So I know that there are circumstances why folks cannot live in their heart place at the very moment, but there's always, as I believe, we can begin creating through our intention that one day, sooner than later, I will be able to live in the place that nurtures my spirit.
Yes.
So for me, that's number one. Because I'm from DC and I love DC, and it is not the place for me to that nurtures my spirit in the way that living here does.
I
It has its
understand.
elements.
Yeah.
Also, the um, the choice to serve in the way that is in alignment with my spirit, to have the courage to be self-employed, to continue to serve at 80 and love what I'm doing. I mean, I wouldn't continue to do this work if I wasn't loving what I was doing. And
Right.
that also is a sweet life to love what you're doing so that even though you might experience physical fatigue at the end of the day and maybe emotional fatigue if you've been present with, really present with people, there would be there when you thought about it, there would be no other work that you would want to do. There's just no, because of your one, there's a oneness with um with with how you're serving.
Well, people always ask me, they say, your mom moved down to South Carolina to retire. And I'm like, retire? She's not retired.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a question that I used to get. I haven't gotten that question in a long time because I
'Cause
think
I think now they know they better stop asking you that because it's silly and they see that you out here in these streets doing your thing.
and social media, I'm really, really active on Facebook, as a lot of you guys
Yeah.
know. Everybody, all the young folks have all these other platforms. Facebook was where I started, and it is where I, where
That's where
I'm.
your people are. So it worked. And if you want to follow her on Facebook, just look up Ifetayo White on Facebook, and you
Yeah.
can see her there. So the description that you gave of what is a sweet life to you now through the 80-year-old lens, how has that vision of a sweet life evolved, or has it changed since you were 70, 60, 50? You know, how has your desire and your intention for your life, how has that shifted, or has it, from earlier decades?
Well, um, Well, not really, not through my 60s and 70s, I would say. It's been an evolving and intentional and evolving.
Mhm,
There's not a big difference in the way that I'm living now than 25 years ago when I moved here. There was a
mhm,
difference before that time, but the I've always, I would say, really, I've I have lived a sweet life most of my life because I've had, I believe, I've made choices for myself. And even when I was mothering young children, you know, the choices are a little, they are a little more limited for an individual, but yet there are choices that a parent can make that will still be nurturing and supportive to the children, which would
mhm.
also contribute to a sweet life. You know,
Right.
if you are able to still, um,
And I look at some of the choices that you made as I became more aware. And my 50-year-old self looks back at some of the choices and I see how much it has influenced me because
mhm,
had you not picked up and left DC and first went to Albuquerque and then Cottonwood, Alabama, and then back to DC and then to St. Helena Island and to the Beaufort area, I don't know that it would have occurred to me that I could just pick up and leave and go to Barbados. That wasn't my first stop, but just the
right,
idea that you don't have to stay where you are, that you can go someplace that nourishes your heart and your spirit. And for me, that is Barbados. But I don't know that it would have occurred to me that it was just something I could do without this major undertaking in this plan. It was like, okay, it's time to bounce. And
yeah,
so I thank you for that example. But at the time that you were initially making the moves, that wasn't my thinking or appreciation. At first at 17, 18, and then now at 50. So I thank you for that. So, but you mentioned something about the sweet life definition of a sweet life that you have now, that you pretty much have had for the last 25 years or so. But what advice would you give to your 30 something year old self and your 40 something year old self from the 80-year-old self, that if you could go back and visit yourself at that age or in that range, what would you tell the 30 something year old you?
well, because you're talking to your mother, the Aries person. I think that I probably carry a greater capacity to move with less fear than some other people. I probably
Yeah.
carry a greater capacity to take a chance on my life. So, so in my 30s, was um, actually in my 20s, let's back up to that, when I had my first child and announced to my children's father that I was not going back to work at an office, that I was going to stay home and take care of my children. That was not a very popular, but that's what my heart and soul said to do. I mean, it wasn't something I was making up in my head. It was something that my heart and spirit said, this is what I must do. And so, even in the face of it not being the most popular choice for folks around me, it was what I had to do, and it's what I did. And I had to face whatever those consequences were, because if your spirit is saying something, how can someone else? I mean, others might dispute it, but how can you live with
Mhm.
agreeing with colluding with someone else who is speaking contrary to your spirit? So when I moved to New Mexico, I was in my 40s, and I cried and boohooed because I was leaving my daughters. I never expected that I would not live as my whole family has lived, within close proximity of their children. That just never had been my plan. But my spirit was so strong in saying, you are out of here. You are leaving.
So it
And,
was.
and no, I had no role model for that in my family or not too much in my community. So so there
So where
again.
did you find the courage though to do something different than anybody has ever done and anybody in your, and not just to do something different than what people in your family have done, but to do it in the face of criticism, spoken and unspoken. And why is she doing that? Why was she, how do you find the courage to do that? Because there's a lot of people who have a feeling about something or maybe have received internal or spiritual guidance to move in a certain way, to move in a certain direction, or to create some, or whatever it is that they're being called to do. And the fear of, well, I don't want anybody to think dot dot dot. How did you summon the courage in the face of, and you even said yourself, the boohoo crying, and I didn't think that things were going to go this way. How did you summon the courage to make such a leap from anything that you had known or seen before?
Okay, Jamila, you have I'm not even sure if you realize this story for me.
Uh-oh, here we go.
No, but I was born and raised Catholic in a Catholic
Right.
family. And um I I even convinced my children's father that, for us to get married, he had to go have these classes with the priest. He was not happy
Right.
about that.
Right.
That was not. And then, but I was very seriously Catholic up to a certain point. I mean, I truly, except for, certain doctrine that came from the man, the priest, the man, I was spiritual. I'm a spiritual person. Just that's how I am. So being a Catholic for me, um, all of the ritual, all of the ways of joining with spirit that church offered, I was in it until I wasn't, until I realized that some of the teachings and doctrines truly I did not resonate with. Well, if you are truly a Catholic,
Mhm.
it is not an easy thing just to walk away from. So it wasn't until it was before you were born and after Sydney was born. So sometime um, in, I would say, 72, when I was 29 years old. No, I'm sorry, 27 years old. I remember it was such a big compelling for me and knowing for me that I no longer could practice that religion. And I spent nights awake just being afraid that if I left the Catholic Church, I was damned to hell. And I mean, I had to go through fear. So that's my example. I None of this comes lightly to me. I go through stuff. I go through stuff. I want to say shit, but I'm not going to say that because we're
You
on.
can say shit here. Rakita won't mind.
Okay, Rakita. But
Rakita said shit. Hi,
I
Rakita,
know
listening on the replay.
it is not. It is not. I have to say, none of these acts of courage or walks of spirit came easy for me. I spent nights. Still spend nights if it's that. If just going through the fear of what this is going to mean. And so yeah, it I have I am one though that I am obedient. I am
Mhm.
obedient I listen and I obey. I might ask, like when I was hearing the messages to move to New Mexico, I asked for at least 3 months. I don't think you're talking to me. No, I'm not the one, But every time I meditate, the same message. At first, it wasn't as clear as New Mexico. It was, you're going to move, and I was like, me? I'm not moving anywhere. My kids are here. My life is here. My family's here. And then it got clearer and clearer. You're moving to New Mexico. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Never been to New
That
Mexico.
sounds familiar. And
Yes,
that's what happened when I was first moving to South Carolina. I was like, oh no, I'm not. But it
that's
was
right.
so un unequivocally clear that I couldn't even pretend like that's not what I heard.
Right. That's the point. And when you hear it that way and or feel it, then you can make a choice. It's always a choice. I mean, we have the gift, the divine gift of choice as human beings, and we can say yes, we can say no. So even if you hear it that strongly or feel it that strongly, it's still your choice to say no, but it is not going to go away. It's coming back. And so it is it's easier, even though it doesn't feel that way, to say yes as soon as you possibly can when you are really being divinely guided.
Okay, so someone once said, I don't remember who started this quote, agree with God quickly.
Please do.
Say yes quickly. Say yes
Yes.
quickly. Okay, so I want to switch gears for a second because we talked about a little bit about the courage to do something different than what has been modeled in your family. And I think a lot of people might be able to relate to that. People who are listening live, people who are listening on the replay of being guided in on a different path or having a different vision. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you about, speaking of generations, the similarities and the differences between generations. How are certain gifts passed on through generations? Like how do they manifest differently? As a we talk about generational traumas, but we also have generational gifts
Right.
and ancestral strengths, not just
Yes.
ancestral trauma. So how are gifts passed through lineages and generations, and how do they manifest differently?
Okay, well, I I think I mean, I know you know the answer to this question, but okay, so we have to talk about DNA, we have to talk about genetics, and it is a known fact that we all, every human being who is born, comes into this world with um, certain genetics, there's certain aspects of our parents and the parents before them that are carried through a line in what we call our DNA. Um, so the generational, we're very familiar with the traumas. We particularly African American folks, we most of us have the trauma of enslavement and being kidnapped from our homes and brought here, and other places, actually brought to other uh, places in the universe, and also those same gifts. Now, what? Okay, so but we are still individuals where where that there are many factors that go into our creation, that are not just those DNA pieces. Okay, we have past lives of our own, I believe. You might or might not believe in past lives, but we have our own past lives that are not necessarily influenced by this this particular lineage that we have born into in this life. So there's just many factors, I believe. Now, I'm also one to believe in the original design, that we all were created whole and complete in our true selves in the beginning. Now, and this could be a whole nother 2 hours of a conversation, so I'm just letting it be just on the surface. We were all created yin yang, whole, complete, um, with all of the knowing and gifts there at our disposal. And then we made some choices to have experiences through lifetimes. Okay. But so my belief is that we still carry that divine design in us, that is our true selves. And that divine design also is influencing and organizing. When we connect with it, it also is going to um, trigger our memory
Mhm.
of of gifts, of our gifts, because there are no traumas in in our in the essence of our true selves. The human experiences are what put that the human experiences will put shades or clouds over this divine design, so that we have amnesia. So
Okay,
there's a
well, let's
lot of
talk about amnesia.
influences.
Well,
Amnesia,
okay, so but you talked about DNA
yeah.
and how gifts and things can be passed through DNA. What gifts did you inherit from your mother and grandmother, and maybe even grandfathers and fathers? But I'm just thinking about the maternal line specifically. But in general, what gifts did you inherit through your DNA versus something that was taught through behavior? What gifts did you inherit through your own DNA?
Okay, well, that I'm aware of,
Yeah.
um, I'm aware of the gifts of intuition, of strong intuition, um, and um, what's how do I want to say it? Being an empath, and
Mhm.
also, you know, um, I can say from my grandmother, because sometimes it skips, because my mother did not demonstrate, even though I'm sure she also carried the same DNA, but this desire to touch, which I exhibited as a 4-year old at my grandmother's feet. That's what I wanted always to do, was to rub and touch, as a child, and that was also evident in that lineage with my grandmother, particularly. Also, that's maternal energy. That is also my grandmother and my mother to an extent, but because of the generational of the time that my mother was born and a young person, some of the ways and some of the things that I am aware of that I inherited through this lineage, my mother did not relate to or connect with.
Mhm.
But I did as the granddaughter to my mother's mother. It
So
wasn't
was
hard.
Mother Ruth, your grandmother, my maternal great grandmother, was she a
Yes,
toucher? Was she a person who
absolutely.
wanted to touch and
Absolutely.
feel?
Oh, yes. She was quite a nurturer with touching. Um, Always hugging, always rubbing and touching. And when I was little, I slept with them a lot. When I would go visit, I would just sleep. It was always this closeness, physical closeness, and yeah, my grandmother did not. I mean, she worked for the government, so she was not professionally touching, but she
Mhm.
also prepared remedies and served up castor oil, cod liver oil, asafoetida bags, you know, all of these things I do remember um, from my grandmother, which are also a part of my uh, uh, memory of inheritance that I remember. Okay, so it hasn't been my choice to be an herbalist. I have studied herbalism, but that was not the strongest call for me. Touch
Mhm.
was the strongest call for me. I was a massage therapist, as you know, a reflexologist, acupressure, all the things that I pierced ears, I did perms, I did eyebrow. I was always that one doing, you know, um,
And
using
none of that had to do with your job being a Capitol Hill staffer in the
none of
80s.
that, which is, that is so true. Being a Russian translator, being a Capitol Hill,
Yo,
all
my mom studied Russian at Howard University, and she was a Russian translator for a while.
yes, I was. And but there's so many aspects to each of us. And I
Right.
always tell people I believe, studying Russian and being a translator was a soul memory for me. It came forward. I was good at it. I loved it, and then it went away. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really connect with that part of myself any longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have more questions, both as your daughter, but also as a viewer who would want to hear these things. You mentioned that you received through your grandmother and mother, but especially through your grandmother, through Mother Ruth, um, the intuitive part. You talked about the touching and the rubbing, but you mentioned the intuitive part and being an empath. How did those gifts manifest in her? How did you observe? What do you remember about her intuition or energy sensitivity, being an empath? What do you remember of her that you know that part of you came through that lineage?
Well, okay, so I'm going to I'm gonna give examples that of my memory of her. There were those words you just used were not the words I
Right.
used, of course, growing up. I just remember my grandmother. She dreamed a lot, and
Mhm.
which I do dream, but not the way she dreamed. And she always had a number book, which a lot of people in DC had. So she was always hitting the number because her dreams correlated to whatever was in the number book. When she dreamed about
Look, that
rabbits.
that genetic gift has missed me. I got the intuitive part, but I can't never get these numbers. And believe me, I have tried. I can't
But
get lottery numbers. I
you dream though, Jamila. You
do
have
dream from the fish dreams and everything.
yes, that's what I mean. Yes. That's what I mean. She dreamed, but yeah, I mean more than just numbers, but numbers was a big thing in our house. We always had these number books because that's what my grandmother, was always referring to them with her dreams that she remembered really clearly. And more often than not, she hit the number because her dreams and the number book matched up. Um,
So what,
she
what what for those of us of these younger generation, what is a number book? So does it tell you if you have a dream about something that this is the number that correlates to the dream? Or are you saying she was actually dreaming of numbers and writing
no,
them in a book?
no, it correlated. So if she dreamed about frogs, she went in her number book, and it had a whole correlation to frogs, and it might be frogs dancing, frogs singing. I mean, it got very specific. And then she would play the number. She would call whoever you call, or give somebody a piece of paper, and they
Mhm.
would take it to wherever and wait for the number to come out that day. So that was one of the ways that I mean, as a young child, I just remembered that happened, throughout my whole youth with my grandmother. And
She
also,
knew things. I remember you telling me she knew things. Okay, you were saying also?
yeah, she knew things like both my mother and grandmother knew who were calling on the phone. I mean, that was one of the things that that was commonplace. My grandmother also knew who was coming to visit before they got there.
Mhm.
I feel like so and so's coming. I'm going to see so and so soon, and then next thing you know, they're coming. Um, Now, the empath part is hard for me to say at this time because um, those generations were not as easy to share verbally about their feelings, number one. So the feeling of, us being aware that we're feeling this way or that way because somebody else is feeling this way or that way, that was never really a part of our conversations in my growing up. Um, I just knew of her sensitivity in the way that she responded to this person or that person. It was just very obvious, not whether she liked the person or not, but the being in tune with the person at that time.
Okay.
Um, yeah, there just I,
Well, you
many,
used to tell me what you told me once that when I started having fish dreams when I was in my early 20s, I was probably 20, 21, 22. Around that time I started being aware that I had fish dreams,
yeah,
because fish dreams meaning that predicted pregnancies. Because prior to that, I may have been having fish dreams, but I never knew that it meant anything until I mentioned it to you. This must have been 95 or 96. When I mentioned to you, oh, I had a dream and there were fish and da 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 da. You were like, that's a fish dream. And I was like, yeah, there were fish. And you were like, no, that means something
yes,
in pregnancy. And I had never heard that before. And then
yes.
sure enough, right after that, a whole bunch of my Delta line sisters ended up pregnant.
Yeah, yes.
So,
Yeah, the fish
and
dreams were specific to her also about
I
pregnancy.
had I never heard of that
Yeah.
before. But then you were telling me during that time that around the time of that conversation that Mother Ruth knew things, and she knew when you were pregnant, or something about
Oh,
she
that
called
was
you out at the dinner table,
yes.
and she knew, who was having a lot of sex, and what I don't remember what you were telling me, but I just
Yes.
remember holding the phone with my mouth hanging
Yes.
open, because at this point she had passed on, and my grandmother, your mom, had passed on, and I never knew these things about either of them, about being intuitive or having these dreams. I recall that was the first time I was aware of it. So tell me more about that part, the
Yes.
fish dreams, and how she knew you were pregnant, which you said it wasn't a dream, but she said something to you at the dinner table one day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and I was going to
You're
move
spilling
to
all the tea.
yes. No. No, well, her and since becoming a doula, there's some things that I understand better. But I remember we were all afraid as, young women having sex somewhere to come around her because number one, she could tell that you were having sex. I
How could she?
don't I now that piece I don't remember. I don't know how that was happening. But
Well, how did you know that she know? That she would just tell you and
oh
just
yeah. Oh well, it was more a second person. Mother Ruth, somebody would say, "Oh, Mother Ruth said you must be having sex because da 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 da." You know, she knows you having sex. Blah da 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 da. That's how it would come. She never said anything to me directly, except for being
okay,
pregnant. She could
right?
tell, and now I know. She would look at your neck. She would all, and she did tell me that. She said, "I can tell when somebody's pregnant because I see it in their neck." Now, what I've learned since being a doula is that yes, it's a thyroid change. Your
Oh,
thyroid changes,
so
and
literally is physiological as
it
well.
really is. But she never, that's not, that didn't mean anything to her physiologically. She
Mhm.
saw your neck, and there was something about your neck that told her that you were pregnant. And
So I
so,
want to know, why weren't y'all always wearing turtlenecks then and covering?
well, if
Keep
you
her
were
out
pregnant,
y'all business.
and I think a lot of us did wear turtlenecks. I don't think I,
Turtlenecks, scarves, chunky
all of that.
necklaces.
All of, oh, you know what, Jamila? It was
What?
something about the way you walked that she knew you were having sex. When you that now I'm remembering it was something about the way you walked that she says that your walk has changed. And for her, that meant
So you
intuitively.
walking bow-legged? Like, what's the difference? So it's
This
something on
was,
your neck, you're pregnant, or if she had a fish dream. But
and
if you
as
were walking different, that means you was having
but
sex.
listen. And according to my mother, these were old wives' tales, but I swear to you, they
She
might
was
have been
right
old.
though.
Huh?
She probably was right though.
She was right. No, no, absolutely, she was right. But I'm remembering it was about how you walked, that she could tell that you were ever sick. Don't ask me how, because I don't have that same
So
gift
all
of
you could do,
divination.
you go over your grandmother's house and just sit in a chair in a turtleneck and not get up.
Well, I mean, if you had something to hide, you would do that,
Just
you
so she
know.
wouldn't be looking at you to see if you was walking different.
Well, don't forget, I lived there with her until I got married. So,
Yeah. Oh my
you know,
God.
I know.
Oh,
But these
okay.
are ways. I mean, had I been, I was a young person, so I wasn't thinking like as I would now with my granddaughter or with you. I didn't know at that time that these were attributes or traits of
Mhm.
someone who was intuitive or empathic. I just never, this is just how my grandmother was.
Right.
And her daughters, they all had these certain ways. And yet it was interesting. It is interesting to me because I was also very intuitive. I could read minds, I could read people's thoughts when I was little. And that really scared my mother. And she told me never to do that again, never
I
to
was going
say
to ask
anything.
you that next. Was what was the reaction to your gifts? Were you supported in your gifts, whether it was the knowing what people are thinking or the touching and rubbing, or were you not supported, or were you supported
No.
by some instances and not supported in others? Or what was your experience like then as an intuitive and very sensitive child?
Well, it wasn't, my gifts weren't welcome in that way because remember when you live in a family where there's a lot of secrets being kept,
Mhm.
that is scary to
It's a
people
threat.
who are keeping the
That's a threat.
secrets.
Right.
So they would rather you deny your gifts, and they help you to deny them by telling you that
You must be wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Hush up.
exactly. So I mean, I knew what I felt, I knew what I knew, yet it became confusing at some point for me because other folks are saying no, that's not true. But by the time I was 9 or 10, I was pretty much convinced that I knew what I knew, and that I
What was some
that
of
I
the kinds of things that you knew as a child that you knew that you knew something, or that you knew and either spoke up and were appreciated for it or kept to yourself? What were the kinds of things that you knew as a
well,
child?
a couple of things. One is that I knew when folks were lying in my home, and they were covering up something, and they told lies about it. And I also knew when other people, which is what I told to my mother when there was a woman visiting a friend of hers, and I shared with my mother that she was lying, that she was not telling the truth. And that's when I was told never to say anything like that again,
Mhm.
never say it. And so there was a lot of fear really around my capacity to know, because it meant that was going to bring light to some areas that were best kept in the dark relative to the family that I was living with, my family. Also, when I began meditating in
So
19
at what point then, going from a sensitive child? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, this didn't stop ever. I began meditating TM in 82, and it really scared my mother, who said that she had read articles about folks who were meditating and that they went crazy. And so she was advising me to give up that practice, which,
Okay, but you
I'm
did not.
following my spirit. I'm a meditative. And
You
so,
did not. I remember being about around that time, being like 9 or 10, and you started your daily, twice a day meditation practice for 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening when you came home from work. And I
Yeah.
remember you were very clear with us. I'm going in my bedroom. I'm going to be meditating, which
Yes.
means my door is closed. Do not open the door. Do not call my name. If somebody calls on the phone and asks for me, tell them you will take a message, but do not open this door. And I can't remember if Sydney, my older sister, if she was as, I don't want to say obedient about that, but if she was as curious as to what would happen if she opened the door as I was.
I know.
And I was testing that boundary a lot initially until I got it like, oh, she means don't open this door. But was Sydney, did she? Because I just remember thinking, well, the door is closed an awful long time. What if I want something? And of course, I could think of 100 things that I want now to ask you or tell you or have you,
Yeah, but
ask you to do.
it was very clear. I mean, I was very clear it would be 20
Yes, you
minutes.
were.
It was going to be 20 minutes. So
Yes.
you knew how to tell time. And so 20 minutes was what it was going to be. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't going to be 5 minutes one day and an hour the next day, 20 minutes. So, yes, you were very curious and also very persistent about calling my name, whispering my name under the door. And, and all of that, all of that was fine. At least, you know, I still, that's still another example of how my spirit said, this is what I must do.
You
And
were
so
very devoted to that practice.
I was
Very.
devoted to the practice because my message was clear. For me not to be insane, I had to meditate twice a day. So I had to have children to understand that you're gonna have to give me 20 minutes, and the rest of the time I'll do your homework. We will have whatever, but I have to have that 20 minutes when I come home for
Right.
my transition.
Yeah. So
And
that's when you had your Capitol Hill job. You would come home, put your
yes,
bag down, you would go in your bedroom and close the door
that's it. And
in
then we'll
20
have the
minutes.
rest. Then the rest of the evening, the rest of the day can proceed. But I had to, because of how I'm wired, and I didn't know at the time. I mean, I am highly stimulated, so, but anyway,
And
that
also
was
you were in that toxic job with that crazy boss lady,
that is true too.
you
That's a
know.
that's
I'm sure
another
somebody
story.
listening can relate to that.
That's a whole nother story. Yeah.
So I want to go back to this genetic legacy of gifts. And I remember one time you explained to me about a girl child, that when she's born, she is born with all of the eggs she's ever going to have in life. And that, technically it's the grandmother carrying the mother who's carrying you. So
Mhm.
you, we as women resided inside not just our mother's womb, but in our grandmother's womb. And that the things that happened at the point of conception with our mothers affect us. Can you talk more about that and
Um,
the genetic, what does that mean to be cared energetically, genetically, and as far as gifts, what does that mean about being carried inside your mother, inside your grandmother?
it means, I mean, literally, it means we're one. I mean, when
Yeah.
you think about it, if you know that those eggs are present, like even in my granddaughter now, in you, in the granddaughter, that those eggs from me, from my mother, from my grandmother on back are past, are present in us. It is, it is, what's the word? It's mind blowing in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
It literally is mind blowing. And this is just an aside, put a pin in that. But I
Okay.
just read recently an article that said this, it's a scientific research article, and they're doing more science, that intelligence is passed through the mother's lineage. So,
Really
yes,
interesting.
yes,
Even to boy children, or just through
yes.
the women?
No,
So, okay.
to boy children,
So you get
it
your smarts from your mother's side.
exactly. You get your smarts from your mother's side. Now you get other things from your father's side, and um, but I haven't. And as you asked that question about the eggs, my mind and the reason I brought up this particular study is because I had been pondering, and I don't have an answer yet of what all that meant relative to, to these eggs that are formed, that are already formed in us. It is such an energetic phenomenon. It's such an energetic. There is so much about us, the human species, that is mind blowing and energetic. I don't even know how, it is so, all of this of passing on genetics and trauma and, all these atoms and cells, they're all energy. And
Mhm.
so the beliefs, the thoughts, the, uh, um, the experiences that are held in this DNA that moves, and in these eggs, the potential in these eggs it is just mind blowing. But when I break it down to the fact that we are energy beings in reality and truth, and all of the experiences, even those experiences captured in our DNA, is energy. So we can go expand it out to the akasha, to the
Right.
akashic records. I mean, I don't want to get into a whole long detail because there might be folks on this call that, the thought that would be, blown to think about the fact that every word, every thought, every feeling that's ever happened in life, in human history, is still here, that it is still here.
Mhm.
Um, it is absolutely mind-boggling. So when you think about all this, Jamila, we can think about the we can think about potential. We can think about potential because potential is energy.
Right.
Again, it's all energy. And so when we have thoughts, when we have aspirations, when we have uh, yes, thoughts, aspirations, desires are energy in themselves. And if we energetically feed as with feed these thoughts, aspirations, and desires with love, with sweetness, with possibility, with intention, then they have to come forward as creations.
Right.
It's just the truth.
It just
So,
must be, and so it is.
and so it is.
And so it
So
is.
when we feed anything with negativity, it's just as if we're carrying a human baby. We can. I always love to use human gestation and birth as examples, because the way we want to treat our human baby, human creation, is the way we want to treat our, all of the other creations that are gestating in our womb space. We want to bring sweetness, love, feed our desires and our creations, um, see the highest possibility for them. Um, and when we bring them out into the world, that this is possible, these are possible.
So as we're wrapping up, there's two questions that Rakita wants me to ask. I'm going to ask one, then I'm going to ask you about your book and how people can get in touch with you, and then I'll ask the final question. So as we're wrapping up, what's one thing you want to offer to Black women as they step into 2026?
Oh, oh boy. Bring your focus back into yourself. I heard you before I came on this call, speaking with
Mhm,
someone about a new love in their lives.
mhm,
Um, if I will say it 1,000 times. bring your focus back to yourself and let what you want in your life be created from how you love yourself.
Mhm.
Let that same love be a mirror for you in your life. Bring it back to yourself. So whatever practices that means, whatever ways you take care of yourself, if you go to spas, if you get massage, if you meditate, if you pray, if you walk by the whatever that means for you, but let let yourself be a priority. Black women have spent so many generations, and that's a part of the DNA of taking care of other people, making
Yeah.
sure other people are fine before myself. Everybody's gonna be fine. When everybody's gonna be fine, they're gonna be as fine as they want to be. And in
Yeah.
truth, we don't have a responsibility for other folks being fine unless they're little children. Everybody is responsible for their own being well. So that is that would be the first thing and only thing really at this moment that I would suggest. And 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 what was the second question?
Well, I want to ask, I didn't ask the second question yet. I do
Oh,
want to ask about your book.
oh yeah.
So your new book is out, just came out, was it last month or end of October? And it is called Reiki Heart and Soul, Many
Yes,
Stories,
many stories
One
from.
Bright Light. Tell us about this book.
Oh, that was it.
Surprise, surprise.
Okay.
I asked you about your
So yeah,
book.
it's a beautiful anthology. My the book that I birthed is a beautiful anthology of 22 Reiki origin stories from diverse voices in the Reiki world. Um, because I am familiar with many Reiki teachers in the world, um, I wanted to introduce voices that the world doesn't necessarily hear from Reiki master teachers and Reiki practitioners. The urban Black male Reiki teacher voice is hardly ever heard in the world. So there are three, I believe three, yeah,
Mhm.
such men in this book who share their stories. So and that's just an example. So yeah, origin stories from how did you become Reiki? How did Reiki find you?
Big
And
Reiki
what how you
consultants.
practicing now? Yeah.
How can people find the book? Where can they get it?
There. Okay, so the usual outlets, virtual online outlets. Amazon is having a little glitch now, which is not just with my book, but it's Amazon. If you try to order on Amazon, the paperback, you can get the Kindle easily, but there will be a glitch. Might be a glitch with Amazon, which my publisher and other folks are trying to get it worked out.
Is there another
Um,
place that somebody wanted to order the paperback? Where could
yeah,
they get it?
books and no book Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million. Lots of folks have told me that they've just asked their independent bookstores in their community to order
Mhm.
the book for them, and that's a great way um, to get the book. If you're in DC, come by our book signing at Busboys and Poets in Hyattsville um, on December 29th from 3 to 6. We're going to have a lot of fun.
I'll be
And
there.
yeah, Jamila will be there. And three or four of our other contributing authors will be there who live locally in the DC area. Um, and
I'm
if you
excited
have, my website will be posted here. If you have a problem, really finding the book, just
for the chat.
shoot me a message.
I'll put your website in the chat as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so they can find you. They can also find you on Facebook under your name.
Yes.
So, the other question Rakita wanted me to ask is for the song. She's asking everyone who's been one of the teachers and interviewees in the 12 Days of Sweetness, what one line would you add to the 12 Days of Sweetness song? So, on the first day of sweetness, my true love gave to me partridge in a pear tree or true intuition or whatever. So, what line would you add?
I think that this is a surprise question. I wasn't aware that I was going to
She
be
asked me to
asking.
on Sunday when I was being interviewed.
Oh, was
It
it
was five
surprise?
lords of leaping, 12 Reiki masters. Like, just you can answer any kind of way you want.
I love it. So do I have to say on the first day of Christmas?
No,
My
just
true,
whatever day. We're day 10. So day
oh
10 is day of
yes, on the 10th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me. Um, oh my goodness, I don't know what. Because I can't think of anything else that I want. I want my true love gave to me.
It doesn't have to be true love. It's just what do you want Black women to have on the 10th
Oh,
of
what I
Christmas?
want Black women to have is joy.
Joy.
Is joy. On the 10th day of Christmas, I would love all Black women to experience deep peace and joy in being authentically themselves.
On the 10th day of sweetness, we offer this to you, deep joy and authentically themselves. Or I think Rakita may be working these things into a song or something later
Oh,
on.
yeah. Okay.
Is, is there anything else that you would like to share before we say goodbye for the evening?
Oh, I'm just grateful for everyone who is here. I'm grateful for Jamila for being the
This has been so
interviewee
fun.
of the evening. I love when we are on these platforms together, and I'm just I am just grateful for these programs that bring us nurturance and encourage our rest and our um, returning to ourselves. Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been so fun. When
Yes.
I first agreed to be the guest host, I had no idea that you would end up being it was on the day that you would end up being the interviewee. And I just love how this all came together. I
Yes.
am so proud of you and this book and all the things you're doing. And this has been so fun. And I love you
Yes.
so much, Mom. And I'm so glad I get to share you with all of Rakita's people and all of the virtual space that's
Yes.
out there tonight. So
Thank
thank you
you,
so much
Jamila.
for
Thank you,
being our
everyone.
special guest.
Thank you,
Yes.
everyone. Yay.
Yay.
Have a
So
beautiful holiday season, everyone.
yay, thank you. So if you are hang in there if you are with us for this 12 Days of Sweetness. We're starting the third hour. We're going to wrap things up. We're going to share some parting thoughts. Rakita will be back tomorrow for day 11 of the 12 Days of Sweetness. Again, if you are not already in the circle, the 12 Days of Sweetness circle community, please do join. You can go to bit.ly / Days of Sweetness. Be sure to follow Hollis Tree on YouTube, which is under the Hollis Tree. Like and subscribe. Please do share. It's not too late, even though we're in our third hour. You can still hit that share button and publish this live video to your page, to your platform, to your profile, so that other people can enjoy what you have enjoyed. And when you do, don't just forward it, but drop one of the things that you learned, or one of the things that you liked, or one of the things that one of your takeaways from today. So I would like to hear from you all. If you're still with us on this third hour, you all are hanging tough with us. What's been your biggest takeaway from today? What was your biggest takeaway or aha moment as you were listening to Mama Ifetayo talking about, oh my God, we talked about all the things, intuition, generational gifts, having the courage to follow that path less traveled. What has been your biggest takeaway from tonight? So Michelle said, thank you, Mama. Lavana said, thank you for your shared heart. And Nicole said enjoyed. Stacy said thank you. So thank you so much for these wishes. I want to know, what's your takeaway? Like what's the thing that you received from our time together tonight? What's the thing that you received from Mama Ifetayo? What did you learn? What did you learn, or how were you inspired? Or drop it in the chat. I know that she would love to read that, and so would Rakita. Rakita needs to know that I did my job up in here today. So, what was your takeaway from today? So, okay, Lavonda says her takeaway. I'm going to put this up on the screen so everybody can see it. Honoring what nourishes your spirit and lean into that physically and spiritually. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Lavonda. And thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you being here and being on the live stream. Shout out to everybody who's on the replay. We love you too. What else were the takeaways? Okay, Stacy says her takeaway, so much wisdom, putting yourself first. Yes, yes. What she said about, for generations, Black women have taken care of everybody else. And it's time for us to take care of ourselves. Thank you so much, Stacy. Michelle says she helped, oh, I didn't see the whole message. So she helps us recognize and then the rest of the message is cut off. So Michelle, please do finish your thoughts so that we can hear what your takeaway is in the chat. Hear what your takeaway is. So if you aren't already following Ifetayo on Facebook, please follow her there. You can also go to her website to reach her, ifetayowhite.co. And reach out to her so you can get on her mailing list so that when she's dropping all this knowledge, or she has her next virtual or in-person retreat, that you are able to participate. Nicole says her takeaway is inspiration, taking time for me daily, starting with 13 minutes. Yes, 13 minutes for Nicole. Nicole is my line sister, number 13 on my Delta line. So, okay, Michelle was saying she helped us recognize how our spirit speaks to us. Yes. Yes, how our spirit speaks to us. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. If anybody else has a takeaway that you want to drop in the chat, please go ahead and do that, and I will read it on the air. But in the meantime, I just want to tell you all how much I have loved this time together with you all. And I am so honored that Rakita asked me to be her guest host so that she could have a little break and tend to her family. I am so honored. It has been so delightful. Stacy says, I've already ordered her book. Yes, get that book, Reiki, Heart and Soul. Many Stories, One Bright Light. You can get it from most places where books are sold. And if you don't see it, ask for it. They can get it for you. So I was saying that I'm just so honored and so grateful that Rakita asked me to do this, and so honored and grateful that you all could be a million places doing a million things tonight, and you chose to be here with me and with my mom and with Hollis Tree for 12 Days of Sweetness, day number 10. Rakita is back tomorrow on day number 11 of 12 Days of Sweetness. Also, if you're part of the community, not only do you get those lessons, the video lessons, the practices, the downloads, all of the stuff, but you get to be entered into different giveaways as well. So be sure that you are registered. It is free. You just have to sign up. The link is bit.ly and then /Days of Sweetness. So I want to say good night. I wish you all lots of sweetness wherever you are in the world. May your day tomorrow be even sweeter than it was today. And I thank you so much for your time. Have a beautiful evening and enjoy all of the blessings and the joy and the peace of this holiday season. I will see you all in 2026. And thank you, Rakita. We love you so much. Have a beautiful evening, everyone.